my name is Bochra Ben Ammar, and I am a PhD researcher at University of Tunis Al Manar. I am very pleased to present my research entitled Climate Shocks and Inflation, How Can Monetary Policy Stabilize the Tunisian Economy? So before starting, let me briefly present the structure of my presentation. First, I will introduce the context of the study, then I will present the problematic and objectives. After that, I will explain the economic intuition and briefly review that I will I will describe the data and the variable and methodology. Next, I will present the model specification. Finally, I will discuss the main results and conclude with some policy recommendation. So let me start with the introduction. Inflation is currently one of the main macroeconomic challenges, especially in developing countries. In Tunisia, it has become a critical issue as it directly affects purchasing power, economic stability, and social condition. Traditionally, inflation is explained by monetary and macroeconomic factors such as money supply, economic growth, and interest rate. However, this explanation is no longer sufficient. In recent years, another important factor is emerged, however, climate shock. So, changes in temperature and irregular rainfall can disrupt production, particularly in agriculture, reduce supply, and increases price. So, this brings us to research problem. Several questions arise: what are the determinants of inflation in Tunisia, and what is the role of climate factor, and is monetary policy sufficient? To address this question, this study has three main objectives. The first is to analyze the determinant of inflation in Tunisia. Second, the study the short and long-term dynamic, and finally to assess the impact of climate variable. So before moving to the empirical analysis, it is important to explain the economic intuition and some many transmission channel. Climate shock affects through server transmission channel. First, rising temperature reduce agriculture productivity. This second, irregular rainfall affect food supply and increase prices, and this is create supply side inflation, especially in food markets. In Tunisia, this effect is even stronger because the country is highly dependent on food imports. So as a result, exchange rate fluctuation can amplify imported inflation. So then a brief review of the literature also support the idea. Previous study show that climate shocks increase inflation mainly through food price and supply disruption. Monetary policy can help reduce inflation, but its effectiveness is often limited, especially in developing countries. However, very few studies focus especially in Tunisia. This represents the main contribution of this research. So now let me present the data and the variable used in this study. The analysis is based on annual data covering the period from 1919 to 2023. Inflation is used as the dependent variable. The explanatory variable include money supply, the money market rate, and the exchange rate. So we also include GDP as a macroeconomic variable. In addition, climate variables are considered specifically temperature and precipitation. Finally, imports and exports are included as a part of robustness of this analysis. So for the methodological perspective, this study used the ARDL model. This model is particularly suitable because it allows us to estimate both short-run and long-run relationships. It is also appropriate for variable integrated at different orders, I0 and I1. So globally, most variables are expressed in logarithmic form, which allows us to interpret the question of as elasticities. Now, recording the model specification, the model includes slags variable in order to capture dynamic relationship over time, and the optimal number of legs is selected using the AIC criterion, ensuring a well-specific model. So before moving to the result, let me briefly discuss the primary test. So the result show a mix of I0 and I1 variable which justify the use of ERDL model. In addition, the quantification test confirm the existence of a stable long-run relationship between inflation and her determinant. So let me move to the empirical result. Okay, in the short run, the monetary policy appropriate to be effective. Money supply has a positive and significant effect on inflation, indicating that the monetary expansion lead to higher prices. Sorry. Okay. And the exchange rate also play a crucial role. It's a key transmission channel of inflation, particularly through imported price. That this means that in the short term, inflation in Tunisia is mainly driven by monetary external factor. But in the long run, the situation become more complex. Monetary policy appear to be more limited. Inflation is mainly driven by structural factors, including GDP and imports. This reflects the strong dependence of the Tunisian economy on external markets, and most importantly, climate shocks have a significant and persisting effect on inflation. So, rising temperature increase inflationary pressure, while irregular precipitation disrupt production and contribute to price instability. And this clearly that inflation in Tunisia is not only a monetary phenomenon, but also a structure and climatic related one. And we can see that the robustness analysis confirm the finding. So in particular, imports have a long-term inflationary effect, highlighting the vulnerable and of Tunisia to external shocks. So over that, the result suggests that the short-run inflation is mainly influenced by monetary factor. However, in the long run, it become more complex phenomenon driven by economic structure, external dependence, and climate condition. So let me conclude. Monetary policy is effective in the short term but limited in the long term. The exchange rate is a major channel of inflation transmission, and GDP and imports are a key structural factor. Then climate shocks have a significant and persisting effect. So based on this finding, server policy recommendation can be proposed. For example, it is necessary to reduce the dependence on imports and promote exports and economic resilience. So it is very important to integrate climate risk and ensure coordination between monetary and structural macroeconomic policy. So finally, to conclude, stabilizing in Tunisia economy require a comprehensive approach that combine monetary policy, structural reform, and climate consideration. And thank you for your attention.